Hi and welcome to today's video. October is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, and I wanted to take this opportunity to share our miscarriage story. We lost our first pregnancy in August. I was 9 weeks when I had my D&C after we found out that our baby had stopped growing at 6 weeks. So back in May, we decided to start trying for a baby, and we got pregnant on our second cycle of trying. We were really excited that it happened so quickly. I found out that I was pregnant on June 21st. I had a really faint line on a pregnancy test. I tested again the next day and it was much darker. I called my doctor, set up our first appointment. I had a phone appointment giving some background info, genetic information, all that kind of stuff. And my appointment was set when I was 8 weeks at the end of July. The day I called, they gave me my due date based on my period, which was March 7th, and so I would have been 3 weeks and 1 day the day that I called. I didn't have any bleeding or cramping or anything like that. I had a little bit of cramping, but it wasn't concerning. It was kind of like more of a stretching feeling. I was really tired. I had some food aversions. I could eat breakfast just fine, but nothing sounded good for lunch or dinner. I started taking some vitamins that my doctor said I could take, and I started feeling a little bit better. I was able to eat a little bit more later in the day. I wasn't miserable while I was pregnant, but it also wasn't great. I just didn't feel 100%, but I really enjoyed the first few weeks. It was really fun to think about having a baby. We told our families. We were really excited about it. We told some of our friends. We told everyone that we wanted to be there for us if we ended up losing the pregnancy. So we didn't tell too many people, but we told everyone that we were comfortable with knowing. I told a few friends at work too. I was really nervous throughout my pregnancy. I was worried that I was going to lose it. I felt better because I hadn't had any bleeding or cramping that was concerning, but I was worried that when we went to our first appointment we would find out that the baby wasn't growing or there was no heartbeat. I read tons of stories about that online, and it was just really nerve-wracking. We went to my first appointment on the last Friday in July. I was supposed to be 8 weeks and 1 day. They did an ultrasound, and I could tell that something wasn't right. The baby didn't look like what I thought it should have looked like based on what I had looked up online. I had spent some time looking at ultrasound pictures because I wanted to know what we could expect to see, like what we would get to see. And I could see the date for the age of the fetus, and it was 6 weeks and 2 days. So it was 2 weeks behind. And my doctor was asking about dates and stuff like that, and nothing matched up, especially given how early I got a positive pregnancy test. And she started talking about our options if we wanted to like wait it out and miscarry naturally, or take some medicine to help speed it up, or have a D&C. And I just looked at her and I was so confused, and it was hard to process what was going on. So she asked if we wanted to come back in on Wednesday and have another ultrasound to just double check everything, and then we could decide then what we wanted to do. So we went with that, and we waited until Wednesday to go back in. The weekend before our second appointment was really hard. We spent a lot of time crying and worrying and praying, and it was just really difficult to know that there was a good chance we weren't going to be having this baby. I tried looking online just to see if anyone had a similar story where it did work out when they were measuring so far behind. And I just knew that there was no way that my dates could line up and it would be possible for me to be 6 weeks. I had already gotten a positive pregnancy test 6 weeks before, and that's not how pregnancy dating works. So it was just a really hard weekend. We stayed at home. We didn't really do anything. We were just really upset about everything. We went in on Wednesday. They did another ultrasound, and the baby was actually measuring 6 weeks and 0 days. The doctor said the embryo was starting to dissolve, and at that point I decided that I wanted to schedule a D&C. A D&C is a dilation and curettage, and it's basically a surgical procedure where they dilate you and then take out the contents of your uterus and I think part of the lining. I had read tons of stories of every option that we had online, and I decided it was the best option given how far along I already was and how long the baby had been, how long it had been since the baby stopped growing. When I went in for the second appointment, I was like 8.5 weeks, so the baby already hadn't been growing for 2.5 weeks, and my body was still hanging on. I didn't want to wait at home and miscarry naturally, that just seemed really traumatic and just really hard to sit and wait for that. And I know it can be painful and just scary and traumatic miscarrying at home, and that's the same reason I didn't want to do the medication, because you take a pill, I think, and it speeds up that process. It makes you start miscarrying, and it still seems to be kind of traumatic because you're at home and you can feel everything and see everything, and I just didn't want to have that experience. So the DNC, I scheduled it for that Friday. I took the day off work. We were just doing teacher training, so I wasn't missing school or anything like that. And we went in at like 7 in the morning. They checked me in, got me an IV, took my vitals. They just talked about kind of what was going to happen, and then Nathaniel came in the room. They told him recovery stuff, things I needed to do, what I needed to look out for, if I needed to go to the ER or anything like that. They let him know all that stuff because I was going to be under sedation. I probably wasn't going to remember a whole lot, or I was going to be kind of out of it the rest of the day. So they wheeled me back into the surgery room. They started the pain medication, I think, and some Zofran in my IV, and then whatever the sedation stuff was. And then last thing I remember, they put like a breathing tube in my nose, and then that was it. I didn't remember anything else that happened. I was really cold. They gave me some heated blankets, which was nice, but that's all I remember. And then the next thing I knew, I was getting wheeled back, and I remember asking the nurse, I was like, "Oh, we're done? Okay." Like, I really didn't notice anything. We stayed in the recovery room for maybe another half hour, so they wanted to make sure I was okay. But I was alert and I was fine, just a little bit tired. They told us to be careful with what I ate for the rest of the day so I didn't make myself sick. So when I got home, I had some crackers and stuff, and then I think I ate normal food once I was feeling better. I don't remember if we went out to eat or not, or like I think we went to Walmart and got snacks, but yeah, I was totally fine. I didn't have any nausea or anything after the procedure. And they told us I couldn't use a tampon or take a bath or have sex for 2 weeks so that there's no chance of infection. They told us to look out for if I was bleeding through more than one pad an hour or every 2 hours or something like that, and then for really severe cramping. And yeah, so they just told us the signs to look out for in case there was something wrong, I need to go to the ER. So the day of the procedure, I felt fine afterwards. Like I said, I was just tired. I think I took a nap and we just watched TV. Yeah, I think because the pain medication was still kind of in my body, I felt okay. I was bleeding really lightly. Yeah, and I felt pretty okay. And the next morning, I even cleaned the house. I probably shouldn't have done that. I should have rested, but I still felt okay on Saturday morning. And then about midday, I started getting some cramping. My doctor had asked if I wanted prescription pain medication, so I told her yes, just in case. I got hydrocodone and ibuprofen, and so I ended up using the ibuprofen and some extra strength Tylenol we had at home. I didn't use the other medicine. I didn't want to, the Norco. Yeah, I didn't want to take that, but I had it just in case I needed it. So I had some cramping. It was just like strong period cramps, nothing crazy. My bleeding was still really light. And I think I just took it easy on Saturday. I think I went to my parents for dinner while Nathaniel was at work. And it just, yeah, physically it wasn't that bad. Emotionally too, it was hard, but we had kind of cried, I think, cried all our raw emotions out that weekend before, and so it wasn't, emotionally I just felt, I was sad, but I was kind of okay. I think I was kind of just numb to it that weekend. I was just kind of more focused on physically recovering and wasn't really thinking about anything. On Sunday, I woke up and I was cramping again, and it was getting a lot worse. By midday on Sunday, I just wanted to scream. I was in so much pain. Nathaniel wasn't home. He was at work, and it was the worst pain I ever had in my life. And I started realizing that the pain was coming in waves, and I started timing it, and I think it was contractions. I don't know if it was my uterus contracting back or what was happening, but I'd be in really intense pain for like somewhere between 30 seconds and a minute, and then it'd kind of ease up and it'd be more like regular period cramps for a minute or two, and then it'd get more intense, and it was just coming in waves, and it lasted for about 3 hours. We need to go grocery shopping, And I was in so much pain, but I told Nathaniel it was okay and I could go. And so we were driving to the grocery store, and I think it finally stopped before we got there. So when we were at the grocery store, I was still in pain, but it wasn't as bad, and I was kind of just getting through the trip and trying to go as fast as we could so we could get back home. And then that was the last day of cramping I had. On Monday, I was still taking ibuprofen and Tylenol. On Monday, I didn't have to go to work until later in the afternoon. We just had our meet the teacher night. So I just had to be there for a few hours. And yeah, I felt okay while I was there. It wasn't too bad. So I think physically at that point I was starting to feel a lot better. I bled really lightly for about a week. The only day that my bleeding was heavier was on Wednesday, because that's the day that school started. And if you don't know, I work at a preschool and I teach 2-year-olds. And I think that first day of school we had 10 kids in our room, 10 2-year-olds. So I didn't sit down all day. I was up on my feet, aside from on my lunch break, but I was up on my feet for probably 6 or 7 hours. And I think being on my feet for that long, for the first time since my procedure, it made my bleeding a little bit heavier, and it kind of freaks me out. But on Friday it stopped, and I was fine after that. So that's kind of what recovering physically was like. Since my D&C, I think my body is kind of back to its normal. I had gained some weight in that first trimester from extra fluids and all that kind of stuff. So as soon as I had the D&C, about a week later, I noticed that that weight was gone. And then my period came back 6 weeks to the day of our D&C, which is about normal. I think the doctor said it'd take between 6 and 8 weeks. So it came back right on time. That first period like really sucked just because it was sad, and then I hadn't had my period since like the end of May, so it was just a bummer all around. And so physically I feel totally fine. I never had any weird side effects, never had any pain that was scary, or any bleeding, like I said, that was scary, aside from the one day where it was heavier, but it was still like a normal period. So yeah, there was nothing physically that went wrong. Everything went really smoothly. The only scare we kind of had was when my doctor emailed me back about our test results. When you have a D&C, they test the pregnancy tissue to see if it's normal or not, and the tissue had been swollen, so they were testing to see if it was a molar pregnancy or not, which is a little bit more complicated. I think you have to take some medicine to like treat the tissue that's in your body or something like that, and it takes longer before you can try to conceive again. So we really didn't want that, and it kind of freaked me out. But when I was talking to my mom about it, we talked about how maybe the tissue was swollen just because it had already started dissolving and because my body was getting ready to miscarry. So I think that's what happened, because my doctor emailed me back maybe a few days later and the tissue was normal and everything was fine. I did have a follow-up about a month after my D&C, and everything was fine. The doctor wasn't concerned about anything, so physically everything is okay now, and the doctor said we had to wait 2 cycles before we could try to conceive again. The grieving process has been really hard. I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for Nathaniel and how he's processed everything. But for me, I've had a lot of days where I've been sad, and a lot of days where I've been okay, and I've had good days too. I've told my friends before, like, the sadness kind of comes in waves. There are things that come up that trigger it. Just things if I'm thinking about something, or just, I saw someone on my Instagram, just someone from a TV show, and she had the same due date as me, and she was posting her announcement, and that had made me sad when that happened. Seeing pregnancy announcements and things like that on Facebook and Instagram, it can be hard. I'm always happy for our friends and family that are expecting, but it's definitely hard to see things like that when it's still so fresh and your grief is still so fresh and you haven't healed as much. I feel like now I feel a lot better about things now that it's been a couple months. Like I said, I still get sad when we went to Disneyland. It was kind of sad to see all the families, and just wondering when that's going to happen for us. And so yeah, I still get sad, not as often as I did in the first month or two, or I guess it's only been 2 months, so like the first month, I had some days at work where I just wanted to cry. I think that was partially hormones, and just, you know, it was a really hard thing to go through. I think one of the hardest things for me has been some of the guilt that I felt. I know it's not my fault. I've been told it's not my fault by my doctor and friends and family, and I know there's nothing that I did to cause this, but it's hard not to wonder if it's something you ate or if it's because I had coffee a couple times or things like that, which I know it's not, but it's still something I think about. And you know, and I worry for our next pregnancy, like if something's going to go wrong again or if it's something wrong with my body. And it just feels like you kind of failed at the one thing that your body was created to do, and that can be really difficult. And I felt bad for a really long time that I just did something wrong. And now I feel better about that. I know that I didn't. I know that it's going to be okay, that God has a plan for us, and we're going to have a healthy pregnancy one day. And we're just kind of waiting for that to happen, and just I don't know when, but we trust that it will. So I just wanted to share our story because I know it helped me to hear other people's story and to talk to people who had been through the same thing that I've been through. 1 in 4 women experience miscarriage, and it's something we should talk about and we should feel okay with talking about. Our feelings are valid. It's important to share them with others so that we can heal. It's been so helpful to have friends and family to talk to. I'm glad that we told friends and family that we were pregnant and then told them about the loss, because it's given us the chance to heal and talk to other people and have that encouragement and support. I know a lot of women keep miscarriages to themselves because there's that rule that we shouldn't talk about our pregnancy until we're 12 weeks in case something happens. So most of the time, a lot of our family and friends don't even know that we're pregnant, and so they don't know when we lose that pregnancy, and they have no idea what we're going through. But I think it's really important that we talk about it and share it, because we can help other people, and it really helps ourselves. Because like I said, it helped me so much to be able to talk to my friends, and it's still helping me to talk to my friends about it. And when I have hard days or when things come up and I just need some extra encouragement or support, or just someone to like listen to me, that's been really, really helpful. Yeah. We know that God has a plan for us. We know that we're going to have a child someday, and we're really looking forward to that. We're never going to stop missing this one. That's the hardest part, is just knowing that it's going to be a long time before we can meet this baby. I believe that we'll get to meet our child when we go to heaven. It's sad, and it's really, really difficult, but I know everything's going to be okay. I know that God is watching over our child, and we're just choosing to trust Him. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. I'm going to try posting every Sunday, so I will see you next time. Bye.